Hey folks, this is Samuel Huber from SamuelHuber.net, Samuel Huber on YouTube, Huber Family Adventures on Instagram, and Samuel Huber on Facebook. I'm here with yet another episode of Heroes of Autism. I'm here with Ann Kennedy, who's going to share a bit about her experience running an Autism Charity and an Autism Got Talent show. It's a show.
Yeah, it is a show. Hi, Sam.
Hi. Before we get into all the amazing things you do, Ann, can you tell the folks about your own personal story?
Yeah, it started with both my sons, who are now age 30 and 27. My eldest son, Patrick, has Asperger's syndrome, and my youngest son, Angelo, is 27. He has autism, quite a significant sensory processing condition, and nocturnal epilepsy. And both my boys, basically, there was nothing for them at all in the area where I lived. So they were at home just getting a few hours home tuition by people that had never worked with children or adults with autism before. So I thought this can't be right, because all the books I were reading about how important it is for early intervention, to be working as early as possible with children for the better outcomes. So I thought I didn't know anyone else as well that had children on the spectrum, because I was also told that when my both boys were diagnosed, that my boys were the only young men, if you like, in the area where I lived. So I thought that can't be true. And then I bumped into another parent that was having difficulties as she was walking into the town centre, and I approached her. Then she told me her son had been diagnosed. So from then on, we decided to put an article in the newspaper to see if there were any other families out there. And 275 families basically came out of the woodwork and said, hey, we have children on the spectrum, or we're adults on the spectrum. So that's how I started a group, and it started in a church hall. We were having meetings during the day and in the evening, and then we started chatting about education, and some of the parents were in a similar situation to myself where their sons were not going to school. So we heard about a school that they were going to knock it down and build flats, apartments, and it used to be a school for children that had physical disabilities. So basically what happened was I went to have a look at it. It was very close to where I lived, and I thought this would be perfect for children on the spectrum. It needed a lot doing to it, because like the windows were smashed, the sinks were smashed, all the toilets were smashed. It needed a new roof. The garden was overgrown, but I could see that it had possibilities. So I approached what's called a local authority of where we live, and said, is it a possibility that this could be a school for children who are autistic? They said that we would have to go through a feasibility study, business plan. They just really put us through a whole load of, and they kept moving the goalposts all the time, saying we needed to raise £1 million, then it was £800,000. And then in the end, they agreed that if we refurbished the whole building for £627,000, that they would lease the building to us. And in the end, it didn't cost us anywhere near that, because I rallied the public of near where I lived. So grandparents were coming in, parents, dads, people that were able to fix boilers, that were able to fit windows. So in the end, it only cost £90,000. So it didn't cost anywhere near that. So it was opened in 1999. And now it's nearly 22 years old, and 500 children have walked through the door from all over the country. And yeah, it's been a real roller coaster, a big learning curve of everything. But since that opening that school, then we opened a college, because as I thought, as my sons are getting older, where they're going to go. And then we opened a residential home for a gentleman that had Asperger's syndrome and mental health issues, that was in a hospital. And then we opened another school, and then the charity was born in 2009. So that's a snapshot.
That's quite a snapshot. And the first thing that struck me out about your story is that they treated your sons like they were the only autistic boys in your town. For those of us who are not from England, is this common for England not to talk about mental health, especially in children? Or like, why was there like no discussion?
There's more awareness going on now about mental health, and obviously, more and more parents who are fighting the corners of their children, and also adults themselves who are fighting their own corners. At the moment as well with COVID, things are not so good. The resources are not there. Cutbacks we can see already. So a lot of families are really quite worried, and obviously, COVID is affecting quite a few families' mental health as well. So it's a bit of a difficult time at the moment, but the charity that I set up is about trying to raise awareness, to try and raise acceptance, and also create possibilities wherever we can. And we're made up of volunteers, so that everyone's a volunteer. So they're either a mum or a dad who've got son on the spectrum. They're either autistic adults, their grandparents, their carers, their siblings. So everybody that works with me, we're all volunteers. We're all very passionate about what we do. And we do whatever we can. And now obviously things are a little bit different with COVID. So we can't do the events that we want to do. So we're thinking out the box, like doing workshops online, thinking of doing an expo online. So we're just having to think out about competitions. So I'm trying to think of different things to keep people motivated and, still raising the awareness and acceptance.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like an incredible thing that you're doing, even in the middle of COVID-19. How did you really mobilize your entire community? It seems, was everyone just like ready to mobilize, or just like how did you get like everyone just like, all right, let's do this, let's start a school for autistic children in a very decrepit old school?
I think the thing is, I'm quite motivated, I'm quite driven, I'm quite enthusiastic, I'm passionate. Obviously, reading about autism and about how important it was, for early intervention, especially for my boys. We were at home, they were just getting 5 hours home tuition. I was trying to go to work, my husband was trying to go to work, we were juggling, lack of sleep, all of those sort of things. So I think they were the people, if you like, my boys and other children like them, they were motivating me to keep driving forward and to get to the end goal. And then when people tell me that I can't do something, it makes me want to do it even more. So I am consistent as well, because a lot of people tend to start projects or they don't finish them off, where for me, I can see the end goal and I'll keep going until I get there. And if somebody tells me no, I'll find someone who tells me yes. Or if a certain route that I've created is not going to work, I'll think, right, that's not going to work, I need to find. And I'm a quick thinker. I don't like meetings about meetings. I like action, and I just like keep going. Mm-hmm. And motivate. I think I motivate other people to keep going. There's a lot of parents that follow me, and they say I keep them motivated. When they're feeling down, I look for motivational quotes. Quotes that, myself, it's like, keep going one day at a time. You've got this, all these sort of things. And every day I'm posting things on social media, and any research I find, or anything that we do within the charity. I get a lot of parents that I chat to. I chat to a lot of autistic adults, especially during the night as well, because my sons don't sleep so well. So I tend to chat to people all the time. So I'm quite a positive person. So I think that helps as well. There's a lot of negativity that's around autism, which I find really frustrating. I just think, obviously there are negative parts within the autism world, as in, trying to fight for various different things or for things that are happening within the world. But I always try to look for the positive in something. Mm-hmm. I think there's always a positive to be found.
Yeah, I think that's some really, really great advice because I've met so many people here in America that want to start charities similar to what you're describing. I think that's the hugest thing, is staying positive and keep pushing forward despite what people say, because they're, the only way to break through all the negative stigma around autism is for people like you, our parents, and people on the spectrum who are just showing up and basically saying, hey, we're not going away, but we're not doing this in a rebellious way. We're just saying, we're here, we're autistic, please.
And I think the thing is, if you say you're going to do something, do it. There's a lot of people that are all lip service, what I call, they don't actually follow through with what they say. But for me, if I say I'm going to do something, I will do my utmost best to get to the end goal.
Mm. So how has, you know, your perseverance, you think, really like motivated your sons to live their life to the fullest? Like, um, tell us a
With
bit.
Angelo, with my youngest son, it's difficult for him because he's always going to need one-to-one support because of how profoundly he's affected by his autism. He can't be left alone. He has no sense of danger. So we're working on his independent living skills all the time to try and make him as independent as I possibly can. You know, parents do worry about their sons that are in that position of like, who are going to look after them when I'm dead and gone? Who's going to look out for them? Because obviously you hear some horror stories, you know, within, you know, like that have been abused or whatever it is that you're reading about. So those are the things that worry parents at the back of their mind. With reference to my eldest son, he's got a full-time job. He works at Pinewood Studios. And again, I try and keep him as motivated as possible. You know, he can come back home where he's a little bit anxious at first. When he first started, he didn't quite understand, you know, the banter that was going on. I mean, do you know what that means in America, banter, when sort of chit chat about, yeah. He would find that sometimes a little bit difficult. Were they talking about him? And then he would explain to me, and I would say, no, they're not talking about you, Patrick. You've just misunderstood what's been said. So, but he's doing great there now. Yeah. So the next move for him is to move out and to get his own place. So that's what we're working towards.
Mm. That's great. How are you? You go a bit more into those goals of getting him to that point where he can live on his own, because that is a hot topic among my clients and people I've talked to in my public speaking gigs. Is getting to the point of allowing your Asperger or autistic, high functioning autistic child to live on their own. Like, what is that transition like for you guys?
It can be tough, but we've had quite a few pupils from the school that have actually got their own place now, and it's taken them a little bit of time, but you know, they've got there in the end. They've got themselves a job, or they've set up their own business from home because they find that's a better way of working for them. I think we've still got a long way to go where employment is concerned, because companies still don't understand about autism. They still don't get about the reasonable adjustments that you can make to make a big difference in a young woman or a man's life. You know, so that's something else that we're trying to raise awareness about as well. You know, obviously everyone on the spectrum is so different from each other. There aren't two people that are the same. You just got to work with that individual and just try and give them the tools and the strategies to help them move forward, however slow the steps may be, or however they're quick, or if there's 2 steps forward and 3 steps back, just make sure that they've got the support around them to help them move on.
Yeah, as someone on the spectrum living on myself, it definitely was each process for me. Like, I would take, like you said, 3 steps forward, and then there'd be 2 steps back, and then it took a while. Like it took all the way into like moving in with my wife, and then learning to be more consistent with taking care of myself in my home. So it was like an 8-year process, but like, you know, I got there, and I think that's the biggest thing that I took away from what you said, is that give our sons and daughters just a little more time. Just because your neighbor's 18-year-olds living on their own, but your son's, you know, in his late 20s still with you, like he'll get his own place when he's ready. And the
That's right.
your role as the parent is just to support that, you know, not force them like out aggressively, but like help them get the skills where they feel confident with it, and you feel confident that they can take care of them.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is with Angelo, I know I'm not going to be able to look after him, you know, because I'm 60 now, so I'm not going to be able to look after him for the rest of my life. So I know that I've got to put something in place to know that he's going to be as safe as possible. So what I suppose my husband and I have done is try to create as many pathways as possible so that our boys are going to get the support that they need, but also other adults can profit from what we've been doing as well.
Mm. Yeah,
Sounds like you're as well, if you've got your own place and you're married, so that's fantastic.
I got there. So, and that's one of the reasons I do public speaking myself, is like just to be living proof that we can live on our own, we can form a deep, meaningful relationship like a marriage. Um, and that's what this show's about, this creating this positive place for autistic adults to come and talk, or people in the field that spread the positive things of what you're doing. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that that's really great that you are setting up stuff for your sons, because I worked with a lot of 18 to 21-year-olds, and they, on the spectrum, they thought, oh, mom and dad will like live forever, and they will always be there to take care of me. And it's really hard for them to imagine a world where that's not the reality. What
Yeah.
would be your advice to parents that are trying to explain to their children, like, look, I, mommy and daddy are here for you, but we aren't always going to be. Like, what would be your advice on explaining it to an autistic child? That
I'm saying that, I say that all the time to my son continuously, that, you know, we're here to support you as much as we possibly can, but you need to start standing on your own 2 feet. You need to start making your own way. So, you know, even from when he was sort of 11, 12 years old, he would be, because he had quite a tough start in life. He was a premature young lad, and he had a lot of health issues. So he was in and out of hospital all the time. But then obviously when he went to school, he got bullied when he went to mainstream school. But then obviously he went to the school that we set up. So then I was trying to get him to be independent. So why don't you try and go off to the shops by yourself without me? You don't need me. So, you know, take the mobile phone with you. You can ring me when you want to if you feel that you're anxious. All those type of things. And then so he started going into the town, and then he started making journeys on the train. And then he last year he went to Scotland by himself for 3 days. So, you know, it's building gradually, and it's the confidence, isn't it? And then if something happens, it's not the end of the world, you know. So he'll ring me and he might say, I've fallen asleep on the train, I've gone past my stop. Like, I can hear the anxiety. And then it's like, so what do you think you need to do? So I throw it back at him, almost as if to say, try and problem solve it yourself. And he knows what to do. It's just a little bit of reassurance, that's all. So hopefully he'll get to that stage then when I said, I know it's going to be scary for you when you move into your own place, but once you've been there for a little while, you start getting into a routine, paying your bills, all those sort of things. And then, you know, you'll get there. It's just taking a little bit longer, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's just you're going at your own pace. So that's what I say to parents is, you know, I get parents who ask me, when's the right time to tell my son or my daughter when they're autistic? You will know. Every child is different. You can't say you need to tell them when they're 7 or you need to tell them when they're 10. It depends on their understanding. It depends on their mental capacity. It's down to you. There's a lot of great books out there as well that will help you as well, you know, with sharing with your son or daughter whether they've got autism or not. Sometimes you'll get children that say, well, I already knew, you know, I don't know why you've told me, because I already knew. It just wasn't spoken about. So you've got to think that each of the children are all so different from each other, and what works for one doesn't work for another.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how, like, in society we just kind of lump them all together, like, oh, they all must be the same because they have this label. But what I'm sure you've discovered in your work, and I've discovered in my work, like, we're all individuals still. Like, autism does not really define us, and our names do.
Mm.
And that's why I try to lead with my name Sam. I don't go like, hi, I'm autism, or
No.
or like when it comes to my behavior, I try to always be like, this is my behavior because it's Sam. Autism did not cause me to behave this way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your charity a bit. So it got founded, I think, after you said the first school. Can you tell us what this charity is for and how it works?
Yeah. So Charity was set up in 2009, and that was because all those struggles that I had when my sons were younger, I found out that people were still struggling with the same thing sort of 10, 12 years down the line, and parents are writing to me about difficulty trying to get a diagnosis, difficulty finding out where, you know, what's the right school for my son or daughter, which strategy do I use for my son and daughter, you know, all those sort of questions. How do I fill out a disability living allowance form? Where can I find respite? All those, just lots of different questions. So I thought I need to set up something where people can find information. So at first I wanted it to be quite like a magazine type website, because I'd never set up anything like that before. So I thought I'll try it out where people in the evening can sit down, have a glass of wine, look at the website, look at information that they might interest them. And then I thought I need to do a little bit more with this. It started off with people writing to me about their children being bullied in school, on the community, online. So I started an anti-bullying campaign through the charity called Give Us a Break. And that was basically raising awareness in schools, going to speak in school assemblies with some of my ambassadors. I created ambassadors, charity champions and patrons, all nearly on the autism spectrum. And there's only one person out of the whole of our patrons, champions and ambassadors that's not autistic, and that's Stephen, and he's been with us the longest, and he said he just loves being part of the charity. He's learned so much about autism. He didn't know anything at all. He loves coming to the shows that we have. He loves looking after the families. So he's the only person that's not on the spectrum. So basically we had the Give Us a Break campaign. So we did that for a couple of years, and through that campaign people started sending me YouTube links of them singing, dancing, playing acoustic guitar, electric guitar, fantastic artwork, magicians, poets. It was just like some really amazing stuff, and I thought I need to do something with this. And at that time I actually met a lady that had set up her own company, and she was to do with performing arts. So I thought that sounds great. So she invited me to one of her shows in the theatre, and I thought this is where I would like to do something. I want to do a show purely with autistic adults, autistic children that have got wow factor talent. So in 2012 was the first one we did, and it was amazing. People talked about it for weeks and weeks, and we will be celebrating 10 years next year. We've had acts from all over the country. We've had acts from Croatia, from Sweden, from America, from Canada, from France, from Morocco, and they've come along to perform at the show in London. We had the Croatian ambassador as well that came. We've had celebrities that have come to support our performers, and it's the highlight of our year, the charity's highlight of the year. From there it's become a roadshow, so we take it across the UK. So we've taken it to places like Liverpool, Essex, the North East. We have been asked to take it overseas, but we need quite a bit of money sponsorship to do it, because obviously you've got to pay for transport for everybody to travel. So maybe in the future it's something that we could do. So since then, Autism's Got Talent, we've created a charity album, we've created a charity single, anti-bullying single as well. Yeah, just like lots of different things. It's become like a springboard for other things. Some of the performers have been on television. I get people like Britain's Got Talent ring me up asking me if I've got any performers that they can use. The Voice have contacted me as well. Is there any performers that they can use? And from them, we've created lots of other events. So like the Autism Hero Awards, which has been going now for 4 years. So people nominate people that go the extra mile. So it could be a parent, it could be a carer, it could be a teacher, it could be a reporter that writes really well about autism, it could be a business. So we get all the nominations that come in, and then 7 judges have to choose 3 finalists for each category. And it takes them such a long time to choose the final 3 because they find it really difficult. But then once they've got 36 finalists, they all travel to London, and then we have a lovely evening where everyone has a 3-course meal. There's a couple of our singers from Autism's Got Talent perform, and they get a trophy. So that's a lovely evening. We do something else called the Autism Expo, where parents, professionals can come and listen to speakers, get free advice, legal advice, speech and language, behaviour management advice, and that's something else that we do. We also, I do a women's radio station, so I have all things autism. So I invite autistic adults or parents or carers that come along, and I interview them. So that's aired every week. And then I do something in Essex with one of my charity ambassadors who's autistic. and we do something called All Things Autism in Essex. So that's another show where we invite people. So yeah, so doing lots of different things all the time, thinking out the box, how we can raise awareness and acceptance and possibility.
Wow. And my next question is, how do you do, like, do all this? Like, it seems like you have your hand in everything autism in England. Because it sounds like you have like 5 or 6 shows going at once, and there's a lot of great things. Like, how do you work with your team to accomplish all this stuff?
Well, there's 2 of us work in the office. So there's myself and Lisa, she's part-time. And then I have Marla, who's one of my charity champions, and she looks after the charity website for me. I've got Tally, everyone's a volunteer. And Tally looks after creating posters and looking after the Zoom workshops while we're doing them live type of thing. And then each charity champion, they have a project. So say, for example, if we're doing something in Essex, I have a husband and wife who are charity champions and their son, Aston. So they'll work on that project together with us, but it's just, that's their project. So Marla, who is also the lady that looks after the website, she looks after the Hero Awards. So we work with Marla doing the Hero Awards. So I'm lucky that I have volunteers that are as passionate as I am, that want to give up their time freely to work on the project. And I think, again, it's because I motivate people. It's because I keep going every day. So I get a lot of parents who are saying, oh, because Anna's keeping going, I need to keep going as well. I sort of motivate people. So I don't know how, but I just do. And, with the amount of sleep that I get and how busy I am, I don't really know how I do keep going. But I think it's because I'm passionate and I am quite driven. And if I want to do something, I'll do it well. So, and I feel that when we put shows on, it's not tokenistic. It needs to be done well, like a proper, professional show. And we've got a tight team. We've been working together for years now, and we just all feed off each other. So if there's a crisis or if something's not quite right or there's a technical issue, we're there. We're supporting each other and we'll fix it quickly. So yeah.
That's
I think you've got to lead by example.
I think that's the key, is finding people that are just as passionate as you are. Like, that's how you, I think a lot of goals in the autism community get actually done, no matter where you are in the world.
And I think you've got to lead by example and treat everyone with respect. So speak to people like you would like to be spoken to. That's what I've always thought that. So no matter how rubbish I'm feeling, I still speak to people how I would like to be spoken to. Hopefully I do anyway.
Yeah. And I think that's definitely one of the challenges here in America, is that we have a lot of parents like yourself, but they lead with the hammer rather than easing into a conversation with someone. Like we use the word warrior, like autism mom warriors, and it can be very aggressive. But I like your approach of using the golden rule of speak to as you want to be spoken to. I guess in your experience, you have found.
Yeah, I have noticed on social media.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I have noticed on social media that sometimes it can get quite, like what you were saying, like warlike, and I for me it's just like, no, why are you doing this? Everyone doesn't think the same. Everyone doesn't believe the same. So if you don't like an opinion that someone has shared or someone has said something, it's no need to be rude or nasty about it. Just everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You don't agree with it, well, that's fine. Just agree to disagree. But there's no need to be nasty or start trolling people, that sort of thing. I can't bear any of that. I just don't engage in any trolling or anything like that. I just don't see the need for it. And I think the world is hard enough as it is, especially now, for people to make life more difficult for people. Why would you want to do that? What's wrong with just being kind, be nice, be civil?
Amen, Anne. So I guess what's next on the agenda for your charity and your schools? Like, how can people tune into these programs? Can we tune into them in America, or is it strictly in England?
Well, you can check out the charity website. You can see everything that we're doing. So it's www.annakennedy.online.com. You can follow me on social media. I'm always posting every day. So I post articles that I think people will be interested in. It doesn't mean I endorse them. It's just that I just think they're interesting. If it's something I've created myself, then obviously I'm going to endorse it because I know I've done it and I feel comfortable with what I'm sharing. So if they want to follow me on social media, it's at Anna Kennedy 1. I'm on Facebook, Anna Kennedy Online, and on Instagram, it's Anna Kennedy OBE. So people can follow me. I post every single day. I post about when I go out walking as well with my son. I think walking is a great stress buster for families. You know, I think sometimes parents forget about themselves, and I think you need to, you know, look after yourself as well. Because if you don't look after yourself, how are you going to look after your family? Especially these days with, you know, everything that's going on. So yeah, we've got our YouTube channel that's looked after by one of my young charity patrons, Ryan. He's 18. He's got Asperger's syndrome. So he's been looking after the YouTube channel since he was about 14. And he was one of my ambassadors as well for the anti-bullying campaign. You'll see his anti-bullying campaign on there. He got something like 350,000, or might be 400,000 now, views on his actual video called Tomorrow. So yeah, and you can also check out all my ambassadors. They're all fantastic role models who are autistic, and the charity champions. So there's a little bit about them. We've just got a new charity champion, Tom. He was Commonwealth Gold in Taekwondo. He received a gold medal. We've been talking about some projects that we're going to work on together. And he's also created a documentary, never done it before, called Asperger's Syndrome, the Stigma. So you can check that out as well. So yeah, all the information is on the charity website. And yeah, please, it's open to everyone. I do speak to a lot of people overseas as well, and obviously across the UK.
And thank you so much for sharing all that information. Can people donate money to your charity, or is it just
actually a donation page as well? If people would like to donate, that would be fantastic. We don't get any grants whatsoever. We survive on donations or a little bit of sponsorship that we might get for an event. So yeah, you know, everyone's a volunteer, as I say, and I believe charities, people should be volunteers, because I think then you're more passionate and you do the work because you want to do it, because you're passionate about doing it, because I know people have to earn a salary, but most of the people at work have got jobs, but they volunteer their time to me. So, which for me, that's precious.
I think that's great, and like I hope we get a charity like that in America someday. I think that'd be awesome. So I always like to end these interviews with this question for Heroes of Autism. If you could change the way the world sees autism in one way, what would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. I think I think for whatever that they're doing, I think training for me is like key, and it needs to be consistency in training, not like just one day and then that's it. So I think whether it's in schools, whether it's in the workplace, I think that you need to talk about autism and talk about how different all the different autistic individuals are. Talk about the different reasonable adjustments that can be made within the workplace. Don't be afraid. And I think a lot of people are ignorant about autism, and that's what makes them afraid. So I think the thing for me is it's training. Training is key, and just create more opportunities for autistic individuals, and then they can prove to you what they can do. It's about a can-do attitude, not a can't-do attitude.
I like that. Yeah, definitely. It's about what showing the work, as Temple Grant would say. And thank you so much for coming on my show today. Folks, please subscribe to her YouTube channel with her charity. Please subscribe to mine to get more videos like this. This is Sam Huber with Heroes of Autism, signing off.
Thank you, Sam. Bye-bye.